Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Hill, your legacy builder at Winning Proof. And I am really super excited today to have Lou and Sherri Everett from the Lou Everett Group with me today. And before I say welcome, guys, I'm going to read a little bit about you so people can get an idea if they have never heard of you before. I want to give them an accurate view of who you are.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Lou and Sherri of the Lou Everett Group are known for their highly effective coaching, teaching, and speaking on the importance of personal growth and how it impacts our influence as a leader. With more than 4 decades of combined experience in training, coaching, and leadership, they also have received training and mentoring from well-known and successful coaches and teachers from the likes of Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, Jack Canfield, Paul Martinelli, and their certified leadership coaches and corporate trainers. So please welcome, thank you guys, Lou and Sherri Everett.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Michelle. It's always awesome to do some things with you.
Thank you. So tell people a little bit about, who might not be familiar with you, a little bit about your background and about how you came to this fabulous mission of helping people in personal development.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Did you want to tell a little bit about us and I'll capitalize
Yeah,
on it?
that's true. Well, Michelle did a great job. So thank you again for the intro with that. Yeah, so we are a husband and wife duo. Some people are like, oh, they get shocked by that. But yes, we make up the Lou Everett Group here. And we love focusing and helping small business owners with their leadership and personal development on the corporate training side. We love when it builds to teams. When an organization is starting to build, then they will have their 1 or 2 people on their team, or even bigger, as they grow. We love that space because a lot of folks, they miss out on some of those we call soft skills, or Lou calls them power skills.
Power skills.
We just recently came up with that. But, it's so common when people get these new leadership roles. Here's a team, and they say, good luck. And then the organization looks at them 6 months later, and they didn't meet their metrics, and then typically will get fired. But that's not the employee's fault. That's actually the organization not equipping their team properly. So that's where we can fill in that solution to really build leaders from within. So we really love that space.
And it's important to kind of note that the experiences that Sherri and I have going from middle management up to the executive level in various companies over the last 4 decades gives us that experience, good and bad, right? The failures, the successes, the challenges of overcoming corporate politics, as well as understanding how to build and lead teams. So our experience comes from that. But then, of course, experience is limited. You need to continue to grow. And so that's where we then, in turn, got ourselves involved with John Maxwell and became certified with the John Maxwell team, I became certified in some programs with Tony Robbins and leadership, and just those things that we do to develop ourselves, right? And so that we can then give back and add value to other people. So the space that we love is, as you mentioned, Michelle, is that personal development as well as leadership development, professional development, because in reality, it all starts with developing ourselves. Self-management. That self-management then in turn creates the development that we need for professional development. And when we have self-limiting beliefs, thinkings, things like that is when it gets in our way. We get on our own way, right? So that's a little bit about what we do. We are passionate and absolutely love working with people on a one-on-one basis to help them clear back the noise so that they then can see what they already knew, but then they can in turn now understand how to apply what they've already known. So then they can become successful, whether it's personally or professionally.
Yeah, well, I love that. And I have to tell people first, Lou, you have a radio voice. You have a great speaking voice. I never really recognized that before, because I was first introduced to you guys through, I think it was a We Are Connected
Yep.
group. And that's where I was taking notes furiously. So I just like, oh my gosh, that's a really strong radio voice. So I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
And I also want to say that I've coached with Sherri. So I've had the benefit, I've been a recipient of what their coaching is all about. And I engaged in a 3-month program, and it really, really, really helped me propel my own business. And she helped me think of things a little bit different, gave me some ideas and stuff like that. So I want to, thank Sherri too for her expertise and her, she was never shaming. She was never, you bad person, you didn't do. Never. It was always positive, always empowerment, empowered. And I really appreciate that too. So I'm speaking from experience too, when I know what you guys can do for people. So what's the difference between, you say you go into an organization and you're training a group, as opposed to a solopreneur like me? How is your approach different?
Yeah, it's a very good question. The approach is, you got to think about it just like you would approach if you have children. Let's say you have, like my parents had 3 in the house at the same time, me being the oldest. It's how would you approach your 3 children together if they were involved in something and you need to get them on board to help you do something? Would you talk to the 3 of them at the same time differently than you would talk to one? Of course you would, right? You would approach it differently because they're each individual differently. They're different people with different perspectives, right? Different viewpoints, different reactions. And the same goes for whether we're working in the corporate space, working with teams as a whole in the training perspective. And that same exact team that we work on, whether it's 5 or 25 in that team, if we're working with them and then again separately one-on-one on a one-on-one basis, now it becomes a very empowering moment where now we get to know one another and how one another communicates, how one another's how to drive them to fulfill what it is that they're responsible for. So that is the difference. Solopreneurs, we have a sweet spot for solopreneurs because we've started our own businesses, right? We know what that feels like, and we understand the challenges that we need to overcome, especially when it comes to our own mindset and how we think. The reason that they say that the majority, or 75% of businesses fail in the first 2 years or whatever it might be. I don't like that statistic, because the reality of it is, the reason is because of many things, but mainly it starts right here, and giving up too soon, right when you're almost there. And so working with somebody one-on-one, we get to fully understand what drives them, what inspires them, what empowers them, and what their strengths are. Because the reality of it is, if we can capitalize on the strengths, it squeezes out those weaknesses or opportunities. It overshadows them. And that is really our approach.
Yeah. And that brings up a good point too, because a lot of people try to strengthen their weaknesses. And like, I'm not good at, I give an example, social media, or I'm not good at marketing, or I hate marketing, or, whatever their negative spot is. And they like, I'm going to learn, I'm going to do this. And it's like beating your head against the wall, because, you're not strengthening your strengths. You're trying to strengthen your weaknesses. So
without even knowing it.
Yeah. Where does the balance come in with, should people do that? Should they try to strengthen their weaknesses or outsource your weaknesses?
Yeah, definitely outsource if you can. It's one thing that if you can want to, say you're not fond of marketing, or you're not fond of networking, or network can't really do, but you can't really outsource that. You shouldn't anyway. But I mean, those daily tasks that a lot of solo entrepreneurs and business owners get wrapped up in, that takes you away from your true passion. If it's cleaning, if you're a errand runner, all sorts, right? So the thing is sometimes some people that I've come in contact with are like, hey, I don't mind doing it, and I don't mind learning. Okay. And you could spend a little bit of your time doing that. And then it just is like, oh, I have a newfound passion now. I really like it. Or I don't mind it. I don't hate it, but I don't mind it. But there are some folks I run into that are like, I cannot stand X, Y, Z. I don't have the time, and nor do I want to. And that's a good awareness. It really is. So the best advice, if you can, is to outsource. And what we mean by outsourcing, and it doesn't have to be expensive, is those mundane day-to-day tasks that bog you down.
That consume your resources away from things that you love to do, right? That you're good at, the reason you started your business.
Exactly.
No, it's and those are just task-oriented things that we may not be good at, because most of the time we're not good at it because we just don't like to do them. We don't like them. It's not our passion. When you're passionate about it, you're good at it. And generally speaking, I mean, if you sharpen it and you work hard at it, it's one thing to be passionate and not fully aware that you're not good at something. I mean, just watch American Idol and in the beginning when they're trying to find the right person, right? They're not that great, some of those people, and unfortunately, they got friends that don't tell them, and so right. But now that is those. But when it comes down to finding opportunities or weaknesses that you might have, it really depends on what that weakness is, right? If your weakness is, man, I've identified the fact that I need some assistance with communication. I mean, we're in a very interesting season right now where we're doing a lot of virtual communication, and we're being tested where those of us that are extroverts, we're out, we can communicate face to face very, very well, but you throw an email in, it changes things, or a virtual environment. And so those things we need to sharpen. That's what makes us better. And that's what, again, where you find the resources that need to help you sharpen those things. But your point, I think, is this, that not to focus on what we can't do, don't do, or don't do well. Let's replace that with things like creating new habits, right? Don't break something. I don't know about you, but when I say I want to break something, it sounds pretty aggressive and doesn't make me feel really well when I say break. But if you create new, now all of a sudden you're creating some things new. Creating new habits will overshadow the old ones. You won't even remember what those old habits were. And you'll have ways that you can then use to substitute when those old habits arise again.
Yeah, and I think that's so true, because in, organizations like AA or NA or things like that, they always replace. Yeah, you used to take drugs, you used to use drugs, you used to drink, but you have to replace that. You can't just say, I'm not going to drink anymore. Maybe a smoker, I'm not going to smoke anymore. I'm not going to smoke anymore, or something like that. And using your willpower, you have to replace that with something else. That's what you're saying?
That's right. In other words, I am now a non-smoker. Right now it's more positive, right? Instead of I'm going to break this habit, because that's almost mentally feels like a lot of work. When we know you have to break an old habit to create a new one. What's what we're told, but you don't really have to. You don't have to break an old habit to create a new one. You can just begin creating new habits that counteract against those old ones, right? And that's exactly what I'm saying is, there's this analogy that I use, a story about a single mom and her teenage daughter. Her teenage daughter wanted to go green. She was in this mode of wanting to go all natural and go green. So they moved into this house that needed a lot of yard work. So it had a lot of weeds. And the daughter said to his mom, listen, I don't want to use any chemicals on the yard. I want to go green. And I don't want to use chemicals to kill the weeds. So the mom's like, well, how are we going to go about doing that? And she's, well, there's companies out there that'll do this all natural. So, okay. So she reached out and found a company that does it naturally. And she's like, didn't really give it a lot of, wasn't trusting the whole process, but she went because of her daughter. One day she had come home and there is the lawn professional out there working on the lawn. And now, mind you, this has been a month or so later, and it's starting to really look full and nice. The full grass is coming in, the weeds are going away, and she couldn't understand why this was working. So she asked this lawn professional, hey, how does this work? He says, well, what we do is instead of focusing on the weeds and trying to kill them, we focus on feeding and growing the good grass. Because when we feed and grow the good grass, it squeezes out the weeds. that is how we need to be when it comes to our own empowered future, right? It is to squeeze out those things that are not in harmony with where we want to be by creating and feeding the new and the good growth. So that way it squeezes out the weeds.
That is real. That's a really good analogy. And I really love that. So to kind of turn a corner, you guys have experienced, or maybe you're one of those couples, you haven't experienced any parts or any challenges. No. I noticed
we can't even get through that sentence, can we?
So can you share, a challenge, a specific challenge you guys went through that you had to put these principles into action?
Oh yeah. There's a person that says they've never had challenges is the person that may have the most. And we certainly have had our share personally and as a married couple in business. And the reason we have 5 coaches for us is because of those challenges that we face and everyone faces. It's a matter of what you do with those challenges that make a difference in how you pivot and how you direct yourself toward what it is that your purpose is. And I think for me, and you can talk about yourself, but for me, I was very lucky. When I was younger, as a teenager, my mom was fully involved in positivity and personal growth. And I remember her subscribing to the cassette tapes of Tony Robbins and leadership from John Maxwell and some of those guys. And I wasn't allowed to listen to music in the car when I was with her. I had to listen to that stuff. So I was very blessed to have that piece of it. However, there was later on at some point I can tell more about that story. But at some point at the age of 10 years old, my parents joined a religious cult at 10, which completely pivoted my direction as a child and as an adult. At 22 years old, I removed myself from that faith and that cult, which in turn disengaged me from family and all the friends that I've ever known, because that is what they're taught to do. And so I was on my own, and I had to figure things out without having those resources. It was a very challenging time, but what I realized throughout that is I could fall back upon what I had already used and learned in my resources from my mom and what I've learned, and go back and grab a hold of that positivity and that personal growth, and find people that can coach me and mentor me along the way. And that's what I did. Now, it's never been a smooth journey, but it's been a highly successful one because of the growth that I've encountered over the last 4 decades. So I have to say that that is, for me, one of my biggest pivot points personally. And I know Sherri has one too, has some too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially after being in hospital.
Right. Yeah. I think the biggest pivot point for me was definitely in August 13th of 2018 is when I found myself in a hospital in the ICU for 10 days in the burn center. And we share this story a lot, and we just have to keep saying it because of the impact when you come from an environment and a work environment that leadership is more focused on the bottom line than they are valuing their employees. And this is not like a all of a sudden type of situation. It's like a slow erosion. It didn't start out that way. And I found myself, constantly getting sick. My teammates were constantly getting sick because of the expectations, the over expectations, the unexpectations of working 70 plus hours a week, do what you got to do in order to get what you need. And that's stressful. And also for verbal abuse. No one needs that. And unfortunately, there's more and more people that if you talk and share their stories that are exactly like that, if not worse. Some have recognized it early on and said, hey, I'm out. And then others, like myself, ended up just pushing because I'm that rock star that wants to do well. I want to do that. And I landed myself in that dire situation. So when you're brain just keeps pushing and your body's like, all right, time out. Something's got to change. So I found a newfound purpose, realizing after that situation and for the greater good. I mean, unfortunately, I had to go through that, but we can look back at now that it was an opportunity to finally stop what I was doing and really turn to my purpose and our purpose and what we can change and what we could help with more people. Right. I was helping people, but on a different level. And this is so much better, and helping on this level. So, and it's in our terms. It's not somebody else breathing down our back. It is our time to step forward with all the sources that we've had over the years. This has led us to this moment. So we're super excited
to be able to give back,
give back.
So to answer your question, we've had challenges, and that's just one of each of us. So we got more we can share. If we want to have a challenging day, we can do it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think that's where you meet people. That's where you meet people is in the trenches, and because they can relate. If you presented yourselves as the perfect Ken and Barbie couple,
right.
maybe most
I'm
people.
Far from Ken, Michelle. I'm far from Ken.
Whatever. But you presented yourself, Ken and Barbie. People wouldn't be able to relate to you,
right?
Because most people are not Ken and Barbie. I don't know what the opposite would be, but my sister actually had a doll when she was young, and it was called How to Get Better. How to Get Better. I don't think I've ever shared the story. The doll had a dial on top of its head, and it had different faces. And you turn the dial, and the doll had 4 different faces. She had a mean look, like an angry look. She had a sick look. I don't know whatever happened to that doll. But it was weird because, it had all these different faces. And I think, people have all those different faces, but we don't show them. We want to put this, Ken and Barbie look on. And I really appreciate you guys because you share how you were in the trenches. You each have just that one story you shared, but you've been challenged on many levels, and yet you're here. And I think people want to know that, like, how did you do it? How did you do it? And that's where coaching comes along, So before we I want to ask about how exactly you help your clients. I mean, I know because, I didn't get deep in it. What I did was I started like the Dave Ramsey, Chris Hogan thing about, wiping out debt and all that. So I'm like bare bones right now, but I really, really, really believe in the value of coaching and what you guys can just elevate other people. But in the meantime, what I want to ask you guys, building on what we just talked about in challenges, is that how do you guys find harmony between mixing marriage and business together?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a common question we get asked a lot.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thankfully we have a DISC assessment that we are certified in. So we took that on 2 different times, but that has helped a lot. But even prior to that too, I mean, we've been in business. We worked together since 2005.
Right.
And we found out just kind of.
Now, mind you, this was 2005 is when we had just started dating not that long before we opened up our first business. So that right away would tell us whether or not we're going to make it or not.
Yeah. So that we found out real quick that we actually had some strengths that complemented each other as we were building our relationship as well. So it was difficult. It's not for everyone, and we know that, but we're so blessed and so thankful that God has been able to allow that to happen, because we have such great strengths, and we've tweaked that over the years and through other job opportunities, now bringing those experiences together even better to help more people. And it's just been a really great thing. But communication is really what it boils down to, knowing how we can keep ourselves accountable and help with each other, and to really know when to back off or press on the pedal when one of us needs that little kick, or be like, you know what, you're so exhausted, let's just table this,
right,
and let's just kind of veg and just relax.
It's capitalizing on each other's strengths, using each other's strengths for that purpose. And what the great thing about Sherri and I is, and I, when we first started business in 2005, I realized very quickly that this could work. And
he knew it before me. So.
I did. And Sherri's got a master's degree in organizational management. I mean, she's highly organized, very effective at what she does. So I'm organized in my own right, but there's certain things I'm not good at because I don't really like it. But Sherri loves it and she's good at it. And so we do that trade-off in our business. But you think about it, you could do that trade-off in your family life too. And that's really the reality of it. I firmly believe that our relationship is stronger because of how hard we work in our business. But we also make sure that we take our moments that we need to take.
Yes.
Because without us being strong and healthy and together and in unison and having the same voice, and we can't provide value to other people if we're not adding value to us. Right. And so that's what we preach all the time. And so we always have to do that. 11 o'clock at night, if Sherri's up, I said, you got to stop. And she does the same to me. Maybe you just need to take a break. And so using that together is what creates the success that we have, and being able to add value to other people, because that is really our mantra. That is the center of our business, is transforming today's leaders. We can't do any transformation to other people if we don't consistently transform us. And so that is our constant focus in any way we can.
I love that. And I have to ask this question because it's preying on my mind. Have you guys ever had a disagreement, a strong disagreement, and then right before you had to go on and do a dual, speaking engagement? And how did you handle that if that's ever happened?
We've had disagreements. We try not to have it be heated. And we got to remember that we're both in this for the same reason, and we're there to support one another on the same team. But we have had, we're driving to an event that we're speaking at, and have had a disagreement, or it's something silly like any other couple has. It's like, hey, you told me you put it in the calendar as this address. It's not this address. And we have the real, normal bickering that you do, right? But we arrive there and we sit down. We always try to take a second before we get out and say, okay, we're here. Let's remember why we're here. And then we get ourselves in the zone and realize why we're there. So yes, to answer your question, we have had disagreements before events, but we don't allow that to deter us from our focus on why we're there. And we always take the moment before to say, hey, we're here. Let's knock this out. Let's knock it out of the park. Let's really add value. And then after we're done, we generally will high five each other in the car, or we'll celebrate in some fashion, because that is what we love to do, is just to add value. And that's really what it circles back around to. And pushing aside the disagreements, especially the majority of them that we call toothpaste cap arguments.
Yep.
I remember when we were getting married, we went through a pre-Cana. It was for the church went through if you don't know what pre-Cana is, but the church that we were part of was going through, you go through this before you get married to kind of get some advice from older people that have been together for years, older couple. And I loved it. And one of the older couples there was given a story about their arguments, and just not arguing over silly little things. And they had talked about a time when they had argued about him leaving the toothpaste cap off, and she just hated that. But yet it was such a small, minute situation, because it really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things. So we call that the toothpaste cap arguments. If there's a toothpaste cap argument, we call it out. That's a toothpaste cap argument. You're right. Let's just move on. That is our phrase that we use when we could just disregard the argument because it's pointless.
I love that. I'm going to try and remember that if marriage ever finds its way to me again.
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will.
Maybe. But okay, so what you guys just shared really shows, because when you do speak, I think I've seen you a couple of times, and you do jive on, and I'll call it on stage, but you do really have, you can tell that you guys have good communication. You can tell. I mean, I can tell. So I really appreciate that. And I see that you practice what you preach. You practice those things. It's not just you have a bunch of information and you're telling people do this and this and this. You're living it out day by day.
We try.
Right.
We try our darndest like everybody else, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to coaching, if somebody's watching this and they say, you know what, I've been looking for a coach for a long time. I can't find the right fit. What would you guys say to somebody, what the benefits of coaching, why they need coaching, and how you guys can bring that value, add that value to a coaching relationship?
Yeah, well, first, if you're considering coaching, you say, I think I've been considering coaching and I'm just not sure. That's usually, I'm just not sure what direction you go in. Well, the question needs to be, what is it that's holding you back from finding out? And a lot of times, and this is just the reality of it, sometimes our ego gets in the way. And when we can remove that and realize the value that we can then get out of that type of a relationship, because the value that you get out of a coaching relationship, now, there's a difference. We could talk about this maybe on another time about the difference between a coach, a counselor, and a mentor, because they're three different things. And a coach works through the questions to pull out of you what you may already know, but because there's so much noise and there's so many weeds that you just can't see it. And so we help you through it. And not to tell the whole story here, because obviously I love telling stories if you haven't figured that out already. But I was just talking to a client of mine, and he was telling me this really funny story, but yet very, very aha moment story. He was asked to go camping by a friend of his, and he originally didn't want to go, but ended up going, and didn't have any gear though. He really didn't camp. So he stopped by a store on the way and grabbed a sleeping bag, the only one that was there in the store. Like, it was empty except for one sleeping bag. So he grabs a sleeping bag, he goes down, he goes camping with his buddies out there and at a campground. And he was outside under the stars. He didn't have a tent. All they had a sleeping bag because they didn't have any tents. So he's laying there, and first things first, the moon just shines down in his eyes after when you're in that REM stage, you're kind of highly alert. And so he sees the moon is so bright, and then he couldn't go back to sleep because it woke him up. So he moved his sleeping bag to underneath a kind of a pavilion, kind of blocking the light. But then it got really, really windy. Like, so windy that it began to really, really get cold. And the wind was just blowing inside his sleeping bag. It was coming right in his sleeping bag. So he bundled up. He was freezing all night, like shivering the whole thing. And at 4:30 in the morning, he had enough. He's like, I've been up all night. I'm freezing. I've had enough of dealing with this cold. He stands up, gets out of his sleeping bag, stands up, looks down at the sleeping bag almost in disgust, and realizes, why didn't I just turn the sleeping bag the other direction so that the wind wouldn't go inside my sleeping bag? Coaching provides that view for you while you're in the sleeping bag, while you're in the midst of your experience. We need that viewpoint. Instead of being up all night, you've got someone there that can say, what if his buddy came out and noticed it at 1 o'clock in the morning and said, why don't you just turn your sleeping bag around? He would have been able to get rest. Point being is that is where coaching comes in. It's the perspective of seeing it outside the experience. By asking the right questions pulls you out of the experience too. As Sherri says, step out of the picture frame. And that's what coaching, when done effectively, does. So you can then see from that perspective to then progress to the direction you need to progress in order to see the growth and going in that right direction. So just, if you're considering coaching, just reach out, whether it's us or somebody else.
Right.
Use your resources. And, of course, we're always welcome. You call us, you're going to get a free session anyway. We're going to talk to you and have a free session with you anyway to get to know you. So it's not going to cost you nothing, right?
Yeah. and
Yeah.
see if we're the right fit, because every coach is a little different, and that's okay. So we love collaborating with other coaches in our network because we're not the perfect fit for everybody, and that's okay. You know, I mean,
we're okay with that.
Yeah, we're okay with that. So I'd much rather be close with people in our network that are other coaches at different perspective, a different lens. I mean, there's so many different ones. And when we network around, we could be like, oh, you know what? So-and-so would be a better fit. And that's okay.
I do the same thing with writing. You know, I'm not the perfect writer for everybody, and I'm totally okay. Here's another one. And I've told clients, I don't think I'm the right fit for you. You know, and so, yeah, I understand that. And, you know, I know from my experience coaching with Sherri that it's, you know, what she did, I think it was the complimentary session, I think we started with the end in mind.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And there's a name you guys have for it, but we started.
Oh, the history of your future.
The history of your future. Yes. Yeah. And that was really, nobody had ever done that with me before. And she just kind of peeled back the curtain and showed me, this is what this is what your life should look like, or not should look like, but, you know, asking me questions about what I wanted 10 years from now, 5 years from now. And then we worked, you know, backwards. And just in that free session, it was just really, you know, I mean, I took notes and I rewrote the notes, and then I typed them into a Microsoft Word document. And then every time we met, you know, I would just do the same thing. And it was so beneficial to my business growth, you know, and I'm not opposed to doing it again in the future, because it was so helpful to me, personally, business wise, and everything. So what would do you guys do, like if a woman came to you, would you guys do group coaching, or is it always Sherri, you know, woman on woman, or is it, do you guys, you know, how do you work? I guess what I'm trying to ask.
It's a good question.
That's a good question. We actually leave it up to the client, or we call partners, to be honest. We actually have a partner of ours that has us both. Lou has actually his set of clients or partners, and I have mine. So it's really up to the
and we
individual.
have some that actually do. We have one client, one of our partners, we call them partners, that we work with and coach together, because that's what they like. So it really depends on the needs and the personality of the person. Most of the time we'll ask them and then kind of get a feel and say, okay, we think that you would be better fit for Sherri or for Lou. But yet there's once in a while we'll get can we work with both of you? Which we do. We're a team either way. Right. But on the sessions, it's going to depend upon the needs of the person. It just so happens that all of my partners are male, and all of Sherri's are female, but that's almost the general direction of personality, right? And then it makes sense. The communication styles and whatever fits with that style is who we want to make sure we partner with them on their coaching experience, so they get the best out of it. But once in a while, I'll pop into one of Sherri's and vice versa. And we'll say, hey, you know, Lou's going to pop in. Is that okay? Sure. Then I'll come in, and because maybe they're working on something and I have an idea, and it's not going to cost the person any more. That's not how we work. We're a partnership. When we connect with our clients, that's a partnership, and we treat it that way. We want to treat people the way we want to be treated, and I want to have those options. So we provide those options to those that we partner with on that relationship.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that model where you're not like, okay, well, Lou's coming in, so it's going to be double. You know? Or Sherri's coming in, that's going to be double, you know, all that. So I really love your guys' model there. Can you share a success story of somebody that has coached with you and has seen really incredible results?
There's this person, Michelle Hill. I don't know.
Yeah,
She was really good.
She was really good.
She's been amazing ever since. She's like,
Who is she?
she's got this like
Podcast
video
now.
podcast thing going. She's interviewing a lot of amazing people. She's focused on her.
Yeah.
So besides Michelle Hill,
Yeah. Thank you.
because we consider you a success story. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
oh well, you're doing it. You're doing all the work. It's all on you. So you're doing a great job with that. Did you want to share one? Or want me to share one, and then you can talk about another one if you want.
Okay, that's fine.
So we do have. There's one. I'll talk about one of our partners. She, gosh, came to us. She's been working with us now for a year and a half, almost. A little over a year, maybe about a year, but a little over a year. And she, when we met with her, she was solopreneur, had her own business started. She had her own business started for a little while, doing okay, needed to get to the next level. Had just had to bring on an assistant because she was overwhelmed with the work that was coming, which is a good problem to have. But she didn't know how she was going to pay that person, but month to month, right? It's that challenge, right? Which is your growth and the growth of a business. So we started working with her on that. And within 3 months, we met her, she had 4 clients. 4. I think it was 4.
3 or 4.
3 or 4. 3 months later, she was up to 10, 12, and then 16 and 18. And I think now she's up to 28 or 30 clients.
Oh my God.
So she literally she doubled her business, and now she's on the realm of quadrupling it from the beginning of where we met her, not just in the client base, but in revenue. And we've got a strong strategic goal for her for next year that I know she's going to meet. But she literally went and doubled her income, business revenue, I guess I should say, within months after working with us. And it was because she put it to practice. We give her assignments. We give her strategic ideas on ways that she can come up with in order to make, as an example, communicating with her now new employee. Now that she's in that realm, organizing priorities, like prioritizing tasks. Because that after you get overwhelmed with those types of things, even though she's highly organizational, very organized, but we get wrapped up in the weeds. So by finding out, and she created, by our coaching relationship and in our sessions, we encourage the person by asking the right questions, them to come up with the solution and the plan. Because if you come up with the solution and the plan, and you know this, Michelle, you're committed. One thing to say it to somebody else and not do it, but if you're saying it and promising it to yourself and don't do it, there might be a whole other set of challenges there, right? But she is absolutely one of our success stories. But there's several. I mean, we have our retention of our partnership is virtually 100%. So, but we have several. I mean, there's another one. The story I just gave you, but you have another one as well. Yeah,
well, we talk our gentleman that we have. Just real quick, I know for time's sake, but real quick, he comes, he's a sales manager that oversees a lot of individuals for a major company. And he came to us and he had specific goals in mind. So, but the tasks or really what it really needed help with was his personal growth, his time management, communication. And communication.
It's very common, right? Everybody. I mean, if you think about it, it seems to be the general rule.
And I think the really success story of here in the short amount of time he's been with us is that he had a communication issue with his director or his immediate boss. And if you don't know each other's language, there's going to be a disconnect. There's going to be that frustration. And through doing an assessment, through the communication, now through our coaching session, he has turned around that weekly conversation with his boss instead of dreading it. Now
going in with a strategy
and actually has moved mountains literally
3 sessions.
3 sessions.
Third, actually, it was 2.
2 sessions. Yeah.
And
to a better communication just on that piece. I mean, there's other leaps and bounds, but that one in particular, I thought speaks volumes, because I know I've been in that situation where you just keep clashing with your boss and you're like, what is going on? But then if you take a step back,
realize how they communicate,
what their language is and how they communicate.
Yep.
It's life-changing. It really is.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of him for that. It's but again, it's just a matter of, but he's putting it to practice. Right? It's the awareness of, oh, I'm realizing this by this assessment on me. And all I did is ask him, now you've got the assessment on you, because we like to do the DISC assessment, the Maxwell DISC assessment, which is different than what generally is called the DISC assessment. It's similar, but there are some differences. And I iron out, and there's a one page in there that says, okay, now we've identified kind of what your personality style is and how you communicate and how we should communicate with you effectively. But now if you notice the graph here, where do you see your boss falling in? You can identify, or if it's your family, or if it's your wife, or if it's your husband, where do you see them falling in? You can identify that. Okay, now over here on this part of the graph, it says, this is how you would effectively communicate with them. This is what they need to hear. And then all of a sudden now, you then can go in with intentionality to make sure not only that you're going to make sure you're giving value the right way to that person, because I mean, let's face it, the majority of us want to add value to people. That's just a natural human tendency. But sometimes we come across to other people the wrong way, and it's not because we don't want to help them. It's because of how we approach it. Well, if we can change that approach, all of a sudden the other person's looking at you very differently. Now, like, wow, why do I like him so much? and that's, but again, he put forth that work. He put forth that effort. And he took the step to say, I need a coach to give me some guidance on how to make this better. And he's working it, and it's working.
Man, I love that. Well, that's why you guys get the big bucks.
That's right. That's right.
I knew that when you would laugh on that one. But, I think that tell me if I'm wrong about this, but is the only wrong coaching client one who comes in with all their preconceived ideas? They have no intention of following anything you're going to tell them. And can they expect to get anything? Can you shift a mindset like that with someone that comes in? I don't know if it's even arrogance, whatever the trait is, and they don't, for some reason they want to coach, but they don't want to listen to anything you do. Is that somewhere where you say, I don't think this is a right fit, or do you try to break through that?
Right. Good question. We have more than one conversation with individuals, as you found out before we say, hey, let's, here's a proposal to coach, because we want to make sure that we're not only that you're a fit for us, but that we're a fit for you, and we want to make sure that's a perfect fit. And so throughout those conversations, we can determine whether that person is willing, even though they may come to us knowing that that's how their personality is, and they need help to break that barrier down. If their willingness is there to admit that and to work through that, then of course you are a perfect partner. Because if you're willing to see the changes needed, then you're great.
But if you're going into the mindset of already like, yeah, I need a coach, but I don't know if you are, and then that skepticism, then may not
be the right time.
We're not right time. You're right.
Or the right fit.
Or the right fit. I mean, we don't want to work with individuals that don't want to work. And
don't want to be held accountable.
Right.
We are accountability partners, which means when we say, hey, this is because you're coming up with the plan. I want to do this. Okay, well, by what day? Well, by Wednesday. Okay, but Wednesday, by what time? Right? Okay, 3:00. At 3:00 that day, if I'm not hearing from you, I'm picking up the phone or texting you and asking you, how did that go?
Sherri did that to me.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. And I got it done because I knew she was going to keep me accountable and ask me, well, what day do you want? What that? So
that's right. Yeah. And if you don't like that, then we're not the right fit for you. Because accountability is the only way you're going to grow. Because unfortunately, when we hold ourselves accountable, sometimes it doesn't always work that way, right? Because we tend to put things off or
Give excuses.
Give excuses. And then if you don't get that thing done, my question next is, what is it that stopped you from completing this task? Let's talk about that. Because anyone who partners with us, that you get unlimited 10-minute phone calls and emails with us throughout the time that you're with us as a partner, as a client. So if you're not picking up that phone, we are. Right? We pick up the phone or we text our clients every week, whether they call us or not, even though that they can, because it's part of what they're using us for. Because that is how you hold people accountable. When they begin to ghost you, they need more accountability. So if you don't like that person that holds you accountable for you coming up with your own plan, then we're definitely not a fit for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sherri did that. She was really, really good at that. And then, when I would come to her with, like, I feel so overwhelmed and I have all these things and stuff. Sure. And she would remind me, set the timer, time chunk, which is something I learned, she kept reminding me of. And, that's where the value came in what our coaching resulted in, is that's a value I got, with just reminders of, and then she would ask, well, what do you think? Yep. Oh, I don't know. So she would draw it out of me, and that's what I really appreciated, because it made me think.
Yep.
I don't know, what do I think? What do I want to do? I don't know, but she challenged me. That's where I found, there's so much value I got. So I really, appreciate the value that you guys bring. I know that I've been the recipient already. So I'm the one that can give a glowing review of, yes, anybody watching this, you absolutely, even if you don't think you need coaching, it can really, really benefit from having somebody keep you accountable, having somebody make you think in a little different way, making you uncomfortable just a little bit, maybe more than a little bit.
Agreed. So. Yeah, we feel like we're kind of giving, even though it's our own business, we all have to eat, right? But we feel like we're giving back because there's so many people that have helped us over the years. Coaches, mentors, just people that really just wanted to add value and continue to do that for us. And a big part of us is we love to give back to show people that, they're number one, we care. I mean, I'm not just saying that, and I really hope that everyone that knows us and met us really firmly believe that we care about people.
A resource too. We want to be a resource as best as possible. If it's something that you're looking for, they can certainly come to us and be like, I know someone, and let me connect the dots.
Direction. Yeah, let's introduce you.
Connect the dots.
We're not stingy that way for sure.
Yeah.
But that's because we keep ourselves around people that are the same way. When you associate yourself and engulf yourself with people of like-mindedness and like-valuedness, it becomes easy to share your resources, because everyone wants to help each other. And it almost sounds like peace, love, and happiness, but it's the reality. That's what we all need.
Yeah,
we understand it. We just need it. And that we are all people. We all make mistakes. We all fail. We all need help occasionally. And that's okay. It really is. And whether or not someone comes in and they sign up with coaching with us, Sherri and I, at the end of the night, her and I and our two dogs, right? That's who we have, house with two dogs and us. And that's where we work out of, our home. I'm going to make dinner. We're going to sit down. We're going to eat what we normally eat, drink what we normally drink, do our normal thing with our dogs and have fun, enjoy our life, whether or not you partner with us as a coach or not. So it's not about us. It's about you. And that is the value that we desire to add to you.
Man, guys, you always just bring it. I really appreciate both of you. And
you're welcome. We appreciate you too.
Thank you. Thank you. So
we're proud of you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. We all need to hear that too, so thank you.
You're welcome.
If people have heard this and they watch this and they say, oh, I want my free session, or I want to start coaching, how can they connect with you?
Sure.
Yeah, just reach out to us, loueverettgroup.com. They can reach me at my email, Sherri, Sherri, at loueverettgroup.com. And we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're also on Facebook.
We're everywhere.
So yeah, by all means, reach out and we'll be happy to help anything that we can do.
Hey, if you have any questions, we're very transparent. We'll answer questions for you. And, if you want to reach out to me, it's Lou at loueverettgroup.com. We try to make it easy. And feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to answer any questions you have, or just to connect. It doesn't have to be just about coaching.
I love that. Thank you, guys.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for having us. It's always a pleasure to partner with like-minded people.
Yeah, I'm very, very blessed to have, been introduced to you guys. So yeah, we're not done yet,
I hope not.
Yeah. No. So I just want to tell people, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted. And you can reach me at winningproof.com, or you can email me at winningproof@gmail.com. And you can even call me at 714-797-3731. It's 714-797-3731. If you have a question about a book, if you have a book in your head and you want to get it out, I can help you with that too. So until next time, thank you for joining another episode of Winning Proof Unscripted.